coming up in a few moments, led by Angela Fisher. And we're going to give them just a few minutes to get in here and get our crowd ready for sex, science, and psychoactives. Oh, that's somewhere up, I'm not sure, but if you go out in the hallway, it's either upstairs or just ask somebody with a Canadelic shirt on. Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, yeah. Second purple one. Yeah, you can. Right there. Just take that second purple chair. Adam? Pick any chair except for that purple one. No, I'm just introducing you to Angela.
Thank you.
Keep them in order, guys.
I was about to put mine on. He was going to put his down.
No worries.
Appreciate you.
We have two.
I think there's 4 of us, yeah? Angela, are you the moderator or is Tom?
I'm not moderating. I don't have any questions. I haven't seen anything.
Neither have I.
It's not. Tom, you're moderating, right?
I wasn't. I can.
They're paying on, so I pulled them off.
If you need a break, I can probably get one of my people to moderate.
Oh gosh, I have no moderator. So I have Angela.
Do you have questions?
John is staying with the booth because I can't leave the booth. Okay.
Let's see. I think we have. Okay. So yeah. And then Reverend is
What good
like.
scientist? Did you get into endocannabinoid research? Yeah. Yeah, that's my I just
You want to pull somebody else from your team?
Just about to ask. You know the panel.
CB2, right? You've got your mood pathways,
Think about it in terms of
pathways, libido, ability to moisture, appetite regulation.
All right, welcome everybody. If you could come in and take your seats. Again, like I mentioned earlier, we are live streaming all of our talks today. So if you miss any of our panels and you want to go back and review them, you can review them on our YouTube channel, as well as fill in on any of the unseen panels, or if you want to just refresh on something that you learned today. Our panel now is about sex, science, and psychoactives. So I want to give an opportunity for each of our panel members to introduce themselves, starting right here with Heather.
Am I on? I'm on. My name is Heather Riley Heemstra. I am the founder of Rockstar Botanicals. I am all about your endocannabinoid receptors. And our plant botanicals, including cannabis, activate those receptors, which is the key to good sex.
The key to good sex.
The key to good sex is your endocannabinoid system and healthy aging.
And we see that all the time. Adam, our local chemist, would you like to introduce yourself? Give a little bit of your background as well.
Well, hello, my name is Adam McKay. I'm a director of Agridelic Plant Sciences and ScienceSafe. So I'm a chemist by trade, and I specialize in research in tryptamines and other psychoactive medicines.
Thank you, Adam. He's being a little modest, but that's okay. Angela?
Hello, I am Dr. Fisher. I founded Bionic Bloom and have a PhD in human sexual behavior, or the evolution thereof. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. And
Yeah. I'm Cheryl Moore. I get to work with the Dr. Angela Fisher at Bionic Bloom as a trauma-informed certified hypnotherapist. I'm a PCC credentialed coach, educator, and consultant. Been working in the community for the last 25 years. I was very fortunate to have my path cross with Dr. Fisher a few years ago and entering into the psychedelic healing space. And I'm here for it.
so I guess to start this off, my first question is for Angela, Dr. Fisher. What are some of the common themes sexually that people come to you and they look to utilize psychoactives for?
The common themes is an easy question. Generally speaking, it's anxiety, trauma, or age-appropriate growth and wellness. My favorite theme is the less spoken about topic as it relates to men and their relationship with their sexual ability. Primarily, that one little piece, men and their connection to their quality of erection, we'll say, is probably one of the most profound problems to be solved. In fact, it's probably one of the driving forces for why I went into sex therapy in the first place, because men tend to make less favorable decisions when they don't have a strong connection with their vitality.
Interesting, interesting. So Heather, I know you've developed a few products to help in the sex space with both men and women. What are some of the things that you have experienced with your products in enhancing the sex lives of maybe some of your clients?
Well, we have, as women, the highest concentration of endocannabinoid receptors in the body of every female mammal. It exists in your sexual organs, your vulva, your vagina. Mother Nature was not fooling around here. She really had a plan. And if you are able to nourish this first chakra, these super tender tissues, with plant actives that activate the endocannabinoid system, you're able to achieve homeostasis in the body. The number one reason I get out here and speak is because I want people to understand that we need to fund research into the endocannabinoid system, because I seriously will tell you, this holds the secret to menopause. What does the endocannabinoid system regulate? Your body temperature, your mood, your libido, your appetite. It regulates your sleep. It regulates pain function. So when you nourish these receptors with phytocannabinoids, the cannabis plant, and other plant botanicals, because Mother Nature did not just put all this magic into the cannabis plant. These phytocannabinoid properties exist in other plants. So if you are able to nourish these tender tissues, your first chakra, your root, your sex organs, with these plant botanicals, you can nourish your body's ability to balance itself. You can keep your libido through menopause. You can keep your ability to produce moisture It's such a big joke. Oh, we women, we hit menopause and then we're all dried up. And oh, we don't this and we don't that. We don't squirt, all this other stuff. It doesn't need to be that way. But nobody is addressing this from a cellular level. And the endocannabinoid system is the secret to this. And I understand it's only 60 years old. We're only just discovering this system. But we need to fund the research into activating this system. Because us stoners are not the only ones who deserve to have our bodies activated. And not everybody wants to change themselves by smoking weed. And plus, when you're smoking weed, you're not necessarily nourishing your endocannabinoid system fully because you're not getting all the terpenes. You're getting a really high THC plant. Let's talk about all the plant phytocannabinoids that we can apply topically that don't have to interfere with your liver, your kidneys, your digestion. I'm a colon cancer survivor. I have half of my digestion, so I'm not about anything that I ingest. I want to stay sexy and healthy and juicy way past menopause, and I am. I'm closer to 60 than anything, so I'm fully here to say you can nourish this system by applying topically where you have endocannabinoid receptors.
So obviously, it brings balance back into our bodies. Now, psychoactives, you know, I heard a very good explanation of how anesthesia decreases our awareness so we can go under surgery, and tryptamines increase our awareness. So they increase our awareness so we're more aware, and I feel like sometimes during sex we just go through the motions and we're not aware of it, but there is something biological that's happening, and I may want to get a little bit nerdy here with Adam to explain. I'd like you to explain a little bit about, you know, oxytocin, how chemicals are released in the body, and how that relates to maybe serotonin and the good feel molecules that are activated when we may use things like tryptamines or psychoactives.
Well, that is a pretty diverse list of things to go over.
Putting you right on the spot.
The oxytocin, it's a very well known as like the cuddle hormone or the love hormone, but it serves a large amount of purposes. It's medically used to induce labor. I think it's it's like millions of a gram can just even subcutaneously administered just induce labor. It has parallel effects that it works in a system with vasopressin, which is a vasoconstrictor. And those are two oligopeptides, which is really just like a tiny protein. They're maybe less than a dozen amino acids long, and they're hormones that are not steroidal, or non-steroidal hormones. That's to compare them to like the dozens or so very similar steroidal androgynous hormones like androstadienol, androstenol, and whatnot. And those all have a very interesting biochemical pathway where they interconvert. And another fun fact there is that men and women, of course, have estrogen and testosterone, and they can convert within each other. And that probably leads over to the other systems. The serotonergic signaling system is one of the oldest signaling systems in neuroscience. It goes way back beyond mammals and vertebrates even. And that's because serotonin itself is a pretty basic molecule. It's, if you can imagine a shape, it's like a 6-membered ring with an extra 5 on it. On the side, it's very stable, it's very flat, which turns out to be important for fitting in receptors. And the tryptamine family of compounds, it's one of the main families of compounds. It contains things like DMT, dimethyltryptamine, derivatives of that like 4-hydroxydimethyltryptamine. That's a mouthful, or another way of saying psilocin. And 5-MeO-DMT, which comes from the bufo toad. They're all in that family. Actually, lysergamides are a derivative of that. They're what I just described with the little extra on top. So LSD is basically DMT with a little extra fun added to it. And those all fit into the receptor for serotonin. There's a whole bunch of those. It's called the 5-HT family of receptors, DMT, psilocin, and whatnot. Psilocin comes from psilocybin, by the way. Those fit in the 2A category. It's just literally a number for anyone who's not looking at a microscope with receptors right now. But that is a way to differentiate it from other things like the bufo toad, which if anyone's ever done that, it's not very visually psychedelic, is it? That's because it activates the 1A receptor. I'll stop saying these numbers in a second, but the 3A receptor, that actually is what Zofran works on as an anti-nausea medicine non-psychoactively. So it's a pretty diverse system. To wrap that point up, these tryptamines and LSD, they are a category of drugs that work by pretending they're serotonin by looking at it, as opposed to many other types that cause something to happen, like MDMA would cause a release of certain compounds. So that's also why serotonergic compounds tend to be much safer. You don't really ever have overdoses on psychedelics too often. And they also have a rapid onset of tolerance. So that should be a pretty sufficient answer to the very long list of questions you asked.
Great answer. I loved that.
Dr. Fisher?
I would like to chime in just a little bit, if it's okay with everybody. I'm going to make this what I consider to be a super sexy, nerdy answer, sexy for the rest of us. The difference between Tantra connection and the kind of sex that the average person is having, anybody know? It's connection, the love hormone, it's the oxytocin. When we are talking about sex and psychoactives or sex and psychedelics, we are talking about the activation of that connection, whether it's by yourself internally or externally with one or more people. The connection is the literal difference. The sexiest part of what he said was the love hormone. All of that to explain why we need connection and how using our plant medicines or natural hormones or natural ways to increase our natural hormones is what makes that sexual experience so much more profound. So much so that we could call it Tantra.
So do you find in your practice that people that have anxiety or they're dealing with depression, it makes it very difficult for them to connect with that because they're putting too much expectations or putting too much pressure on themselves to perform, so to speak? Would that be a...
So out there at our booth, it says, ask us about mushrooms and sex or sex and mushrooms. The reason for that tagline is specifically because the best sex that you're ever going to have is the sex without anxiety. And if you can use the plant medicine, the fungus or the THC, the cannabis, whichever, if you can utilize that in the right dose, you can basically lift the veil of anxiety and leave it behind you and you don't even notice it's happening. So yes, in that space we do. That's the reason we have that tagline, because sex and psychedelics is how you can have the real sex without all of the history, without trauma, without the anxiety. It's how we can exploit our own vulnerabilities without even noticing we are and show up present to the event.
Just to chime in real quick on that, you're absolutely right about the anxiety-less sex being the best. And it turns out that there is a strong correlation between deficiencies in oxytocin and problems with anxiety and depression as well.
And ability to orgasm.
And ability to orgasm as you age, too.
As you age, which is one of the primary functions of anti-aging, is the ability to orgasm. A recent study that just came out, it was a small study, 80% of women, when they orgasm, produce their own endocannabinoid, and its only function in the body is to boost your immune system. It is super, mega important for your longevity to continue to produce the hormones that you produce when you orgasm.
And if you've been in our office, you've heard probably somebody say some kind of way at some point you've had a prescription to self-pleasure because that
Yeah.
orgasm and all of the associated hormonal responses are necessary for healing.
And everybody is so different. That's why these kinds of conventions are fantastic, because you have all these modalities that can help you find your own pathway. It might not be this pathway, it might be that pathway, it might be a different one. Just like when you're partaking in cannabis, my terpenes are not your terpenes. What my body needs might not be what your body needs. So find out, tune in, like Huxley wasn't wrong, tune in, right? Or tune out, like tune into your own body to figure out what resonates. What allows you to have the kind of sex that Angela is talking about, where the veil is lifted, where you're able to truly connect without that anxiety. That's your longevity, and that's your secret to good menopause. I'll tell you that right now, as somebody who's through it.
Cheryl, would you like to add?
Yeah, as we get older, the subconscious load that we're carrying gets greater unless that finally comes into our awareness and we can deal with it. And psychedelics, anything that you're using to allow yourself to create a safe space to enter into that, bring it into the awareness and allow for healing is why we're here. And intimacy with ourself first
Yes.
must take place in the context of healing before we can actually truly share it with someone else. And when you have that connection with someone else, I mean, you're talking about the fountain of youth. It keeps giving and giving. So, we're here to facilitate healing on all levels. And one of the things that we don't realize subconsciously, the culture that we were raised in, the trauma that we inherited in the DNA, particularly religious trauma, if you come from a conservative family, you've inherited that. You've got to deal with that to some extent and address what you heard and believed for survival as a child. Let's heal it so that we can shed that and start walking in the truth, our truth as we understand it, authentically living the life we were intended to be healed.
So that's a round of applause right there. That's amazing. Exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Heather also said you can play with her medicine or our medicine or some, and I just want to say you can also play with all of those medicines together because they play nicely and
Yes,
they like
they
each
do.
other. So it's not or,
Yes,
it's
you're right.
and.
You're absolutely right.
Plants work well together.
Yes.
Plants work well together. So when you have couples that are looking to enhance their experience with psychoactives, I know there's a lot of misconceptions. I know I had some myself in the past. How do you get couples on the same page? So they are, one isn't doing one thing and one isn't using the other one to go to a different place. What are the strategies that you've found have been effective to get, a partner together with their other partner and be in that same space?
2 words, curiosity and kindness. Curiosity. The 2 most important characteristics of any relationship, whether it's yourself or others, your pets, your children, curiosity and kindness, you're not going to be on the same page. You might not get to the same page out of a 40-year relationship more than twice. That's okay. We just need to be able to ask the why and be patient enough to hear the answer. That's it. It's really it. The expectations change dramatically based on any individual couple that are here presenting. And if we can appreciate, if we're doing a needs pyramid for couples, there's, bottom basic needs, anything above abuse, right? The middle is like pizza, the top is our filet mignon. The filet mignon of couples' needs is raw acceptance with appreciation. You ask those questions, it's the why. So we don't have to show up at the same place at the same time, but we do need to show up without judgment and genuine curiosity.
Now that is powerful. That is powerful. Because we always try and, find what we found for ourselves, and we want that in our partner. And meeting them where they're at, so to speak, is something that we do in the psychedelic space. And I think that in relationships, we sometimes forget that. And, removing judgment, integrating acceptance, and really just being a good human to your partner and not trying to force them to go down the path that you may see. could be a great way to build that bond and that relationship.
If I might add one thing to this, I think that when women enter menopause, it's such a long process, but their partners need to be really understanding of all of the changes that they go through. And it's not just women, men go through these changes as well with your testosterone levels. But it's really important, and it's been the greatest gift that I've experienced in Rockstar Blends is, and of course I came to it because I had cancer, 18 years ago. My husband had to be slow and be accepting of the changes that I was going through and how I was handling them. And if we as partners are able to help nourish our partners as they change, then everything can continue to be great and change and grow and be beautiful. But if we don't acknowledge the changes, then we're not truly being supportive. And we're not being curious. As Angela said, you have to be curious. And our needs change, our desires change, and our response pleasure centers change as we age. So we need to be really cognizant of that, I think.
Yeah, and that's a big part of that awareness piece,
Yeah.
being aware of not only ourselves, but the people that are in our immediate circle, that we interact with on a daily basis, and, being a little bit more open to be aware of the things that are happening with them as well. We start down this path, and a lot of times it's all about me, about my growth and how I'm growing, but we're not alone in this world. Many of us have partners that are our other half, that are in this with us, in this, like Chris Dyer was saying earlier, in this video game we're playing of life. So it's very interesting to me on how sex plays a big part in that relationship with your immediate partner, and throughout society, what's expected of us, what we're thought to be able to provide, and those abilities that we may think that we've lost as we age, due to hormonal imbalances or those abilities. So with that being said, what I'd like to do is I'd like to open up to questions from the audience on what your burning desires, burning questions are for our panel here today. So does anybody have a question that they'd like to speak about? No questions?
One there, you got some.
Oh, right over here. If you could stand up and say your name.
Hi, my name is Jude. I had a question for Heather. How did you, just as a woman, bring such like a raw topic to like a relatively like more powerful? I know it's changing, but relatively male-dominated industry. Because like I didn't hear about this until like you.
Well, I had a number of things happen all at the same time. I was 37 years old, and I had colon cancer, big fat tumor sticking out of my colon, sticking through my stomach. Right after our son was born, I never thought I'd get pregnant. I was living in Italy. My husband was living in California. We were not planning on this, and all of a sudden I'm pregnant. And all of a sudden I realized, wow, there's a whole bunch of stuff nobody ever tells you about. So that was my first clue, that wow, wait a minute, hold on. And then, I have the baby, I have this big fat tumor, then I think, and I shun the chemo. The next thing I find out is I got another baby on the way. And I'm like, oh shit, what am I doing now? And then I started to realize that there's just all this stuff that nobody talks to you about as a woman. Does anybody tell you that when you stop producing estrogen, when you hit menopause, that the wall of your vagina will become thinner? And that sex may become painful? And that you might decrease your libido? Like if somebody had told me 30 years ago that my libido would decrease, I'd put my house on it that that wasn't the case. But then that starts to happen. And nobody is giving us alternatives that are truly non-toxic and truly non-harmful. Most lubes contain a lovely little ingredient called propylene glycol. I am deathly allergic to propylene glycol. This is not something I can put on my pussy. And yet, I could buy it at CVS.
It's in vapes.
It's in vapes. See, I don't do vapes. So this is crazy to me. And I keep saying over and over, I was born in the 60s. Gen X has hit menopause, and we are not here for this bullshit because there is no reason why any of us should dry up. I have raised my kids. They both have their driver's license as of Thursday, so God's help me right now. But I am ready to get back to changing the world like I did before my kids came. Don't tell me that I'm dry. You know, it's like I always say, my kids will say, oh, look at that lady, she didn't return her grocery cart. And I'm like, do you think her pussy might be dry and irritated and itchy? And it's 185 degrees outside and she doesn't want to walk across the parking lot? Did you ever think that? My poor teenagers are like, oh my God, Mom, no. But now I'm thinking that.
Thinking
I love we're live streaming right now.
All right, hooray. I hope my mother's watching. I mean, it's really a conversation that we need to have because there's no reason why, as you age, you should stop being as juicy and sexy and vibrant and powerful as you are. There's no reason for it. And here's the bottom line. When you orgasm, you probably produce an endocannabinoid that boosts your immune system, and you need that. We all need that. And you men, if you think you don't need it, you're wrong because we'll kill you in your sleep if we're not in a good mood. So I think you need that, right? It's really important. No, all joking aside, it's really important to nourish women in this way. And if we don't start having and you know, I got nothing left to lose. The Grim Reaper stood in the corner of the room and said, hey, I'm here for you, baby. And I said, I'm still not going to have the chemo. You can go log yourself like I'm not doing it. And I'm still here.
I
And on
think
top
that
of that-
deserves an applause.
Right? Like, you got to take care of yourself. Take care of your pussy now so you don't have to later. I hope my mother hears that one too.
I want T-shirts that say, I want to have a juicy Heather pussy.
Then my grandmother really will come down from heaven and I will be so out of here.
That's the saying of the week. Okay, anybody else have any questions?
Hi, I don't have any questions, but I'm here to do a testimonial for Heather. Because I met Heather, was it December?
December
At another one of these conventions called Psychedelic Fest, which was at the factory.
at Winterdelic.
I was bedridden for a year before I met Heather. I have a disease called trigeminal neuralgia, which is a disorder of the brain caused by a dentist, but we won't even go there. It caused me to go into depression. I didn't eat. I can't eat. I lost all my nutrients. My sex drive was over. I've been married 21 years. I have a husband that's 59 years old, and he acts like he's 14. I mean, this guy is nonstop. When I didn't want to have sex anymore, I didn't know what to do because he starts talking about dry pussy and, you know, my skin getting crepey and tired all the time and no energy. So thank God I met Heather because not even 4 weeks after I started using her product, and I rub it everywhere, basically in my pussy, around my ass, under my arms, under my boobs, and yes, it made my boobs grow. Within 6 months, I went up a cup size, and I don't have any other reason to explain it. I've been the same weight since high school. I never had kids. But the only thing I'm doing different is using her product. So, yes, my pussy is wet. I do squirt again, and I jump my husband's bones every night. So I am here to say her product does work, and never give up. I'm 59 years old, and now I feel like I'm in my 20s again. So thank you very much for giving me my life back.
Thank you, thank you. All right, does anybody else have a question?
Hi there. So you guys talked a lot about sex and like being on different psychoactives during all of that. Do you feel like there's stronger connections through different types of like psychoactives? Like for say we had sex on DMT and LSD together, like.
Well, good luck with DMT.
I was gonna say the same
You might not be
thing.
able to put the pipe down by the time you get started.
Also, if
Ayahuasca's
you're
another story,
combining those two- The answer is yes. The answer is definitely yes. And it should be individualized. And what was the number one rule of any relationship? Curiosity and kindness. That's not wrong or different with your relationship and your psychoactive. You need to be able to stay curious. One of the things that I think we do that might be a little different than another wellness center or another therapy center is teach you how to connect with the inside of your body so you can hear those messages. And when you understand what your body is asking for, you can deliver it like that.
And if you were looking for suggestions, definitely mescaline or any kind of phenethylamine, 2CB or any 2C series would be very good.
With a microdose of cannabis, actually.
Just sprinkle it on top of everything.
Okay, so this needs to be a whole nother panel where we like sit there with a little notepad.
All right, do we have any other questions?
Hello there. So I'd like a suggestion. I lost my libido 7 years ago when I started long-term chemo. I was Samantha all the way. I had the lottery winner of orgasms and then some. I went from that to 0. What do you suggest the idea of microdosing, sprinkle on, add to cannabis to regain some part of me? Obviously, as you know, it ruins everything, so obviously cannot have children. But I am a stage 4 survivor, lung cancer, not smoker. I know, funny. So being that I lost that and my last estrogen showed me at something like 30, and when I asked this procedure you do that's not covered by insurance will get me up to like what? Oh, he says, oh, like 300s. I go, that was me, hello. What can I do?
Okay, well, I can start by saying you can apply botanicals directly to your vulva that will increase your body's ability to orgasm. So that is one avenue. It is topical, it is not ingestible, it's not smokable. And I speak to this because
Like lotion?
It's, well, what I create is a topical botanical product with a base of fractionated organic coconut oil, 16 other botanicals. They're phytocannabinoids. There are pathways to activate your endocannabinoid system, and the highest ones exist in your vulva and your vagina. You can go right there and apply topically and get into your body. Now, I'm going to pass the mic over to the scientists here so that they could talk about things that you can ingest, right? And Angela is probably your best person here, and you're probably in the best hands right there.
Teach me the way. I turned 51 this year, by the way.
So I'm right there
I
with you,
chose to
sister.
stop chemo. I was supposed to be on it. IV chemo. I went from every 3 weeks for a year plus to every month. I was supposed to continue on it, which I don't understand why, because it took away the remote control of the body. This,
Yeah,
my brain,
Yes.
like it's not even funny.
it's so true. It really does reduce neurological function, but you can rebuild
Everything
that.
you guys are saying is Dr. Coro, my neuropsychologist,
Right.
which she's against psychoactives, but she
Yeah.
says, show me the science.
Show me the science.
Wow.
The science
please.
exists for your endocannabinoid receptors in your vulva and your vagina, and you can activate those. I will pass the microphone
Yes,
over to
please.
Angela because she's the expert on the healing of this kind of a trauma.
Okay.
But I can speak to the actual science of activating this system, which will get your libido
So
to
THC.
fire.
THC. Or Delta.
THC is only one component
Which should
of
I
a
use?
miraculous plant. You need the entire plant, the
Full
entire
spectrum.
entourage. CBD, CBG, CBDA, all of it. I am not a fan of any isolate. I mean, blow a big bong hit full of THC. I'm all about that for sure. That's great. But I really want for the therapeutic effects, the full entourage of phytocannabinoids. So again, Angela is the trauma expert, but I can speak to the science of how you rebuild that actual bodily function to just get that to fire again, to get your body to say, hey, yeah.
Regrew
Yeah, it's like
what's the word?
retraining your
Neurons.
system.
Yeah.
One of my greatest success stories come from vaginal rejuvenation therapy. Women who have actually, women who have actually gone and tried to, like, do surgery or had bad perineum tears and don't have those sensations. You can rebuild those cells, those nerve endings. If they're not completely dead, you can get them to refire.
So the question, as I understand it, is based on varying levels of complexity. The question is, can I get my libido back, and how? I guess that's two questions. The answer is absolutely, 100% positively, you can have it back. The how is not so easy. That is something that we would address from actually mind, body, and spirit. It wouldn't just be one piece. If you're working with us, we would want to address every piece of it. We want to build your confidence. We want you to walk in your sexy heels and look at those gorgeous calves in the mirror and see how much you love yourself, and also give you the full function of libido. There's a lot of hormonal issues that are happening there. There's age-appropriate issues that are happening there. And to address the entire to address the whole picture requires a lot more complexity, which I would love to have a longer conversation about. But the short answer is, if you have a libido issue, it doesn't matter how old you are, we can help.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that question. Anybody else with a question this afternoon, morning? Gosh, where am I?
I just wanted to add into that. There's a couple of simple solutions that might help along the way that are worth trying. DHEA is an over-the-counter supplement that might be a pro-drug for various hormones. And then, of course, I'm sure you've tried the actual hormone therapy. There are plenty of different ones. You got to kind of work out those specific levels. And there's all sorts of things.
A lot of cancer patients can't take hormones.
I was just going to say
replacement therapy.
that because the estrogen, depending on her kind of cancer, could be a problem.
That's
So
part of how I came to my formula, is nobody knows why I got colon cancer, and they don't know if it was estrogen induced, because I don't carry the Lynch genes, so that means it could be estrogen induced. So I don't do any hormone replacement therapies.
And I wouldn't just casually say go do any of those things, while the DHEA would incite some testosterone, which would bring your libido back. That may not be the best route, and maybe having a bioavailable something else would be a better solution for your specific problem.
Yes, I never take any of these things. You'd have to do it under medical supervision, of course. I am not a doctor, so this is not medical advice.
Hey, my name is Jasenia. So my assistant is going through menopause, and she had breast cancer. So I know you spoke a lot about both of those topics. Is there anything here? She's open to cannabis, but is there anything here I could possibly buy for her to help her with her menopause symptoms? Because she's going through it in the office, and I just want to be a good boss to her.
Well, I feel really embarrassed to make an unshamed plug for Rockstar Woman, but that's my wheelhouse. I just want to help women go through menopause. So this is a topical product, and because I don't have an ascending colon, they removed 21 centimeters of my colon when they removed the big fat tumor. I don't rely on anything that I can ingest, smoke, eat, anything. I rely on topical plants to help me.
I can tell you, I'm sorry, I don't
No,
mean to
go,
cut you
baby.
off. I can tell you that the conversation we had earlier about oxytocin is definitely something to look into. There is a lot of research coming out on how oxytocin specifically is an adaptogen, so to speak, for things like breast cancer or estrogen-dependent cancers. So while we couldn't say go take a hormone, we can say, go get yourself or get her some high doses of oxytocin, which isn't as easy as make it sound to get. But if we
I use a
combine
topical oxytocin every single day.
oxytocin with what she's got, we can probably solve her problem.
And I know Adam's been working on some research on an oxytocin vape pen.
Well, it's currently administered in a nasal mist, according
Nasal
to the
mist.
FDA. So I have been looking in to see what kind of vaporizability it has, and your favorite solvent, of course, propylene glycol.
Ha!
Well, that's a whole other form of administration.
I like rapid dissolved tablets. I don't like anything that's
You missed us at
Sublingual.
Tantradelic. That's what we passed out today. And so when we were talking about the difference between Tantra and connection and normal people's sex, we were talking about activating that oxytocin, and especially in couples kind of therapy. That's exactly where we need to be to rebuild exploitation of vulnerability in a safe place.
Exploitation. My husband always talks about, like, he saw me go through the first baby, and then he's like, wow, and then you did it again. Oh, right, oxytocin. Like, it's the only reason.
Stay away from the oxytocin if you're pregnant, though.
Well, we have time for 2 more questions. Anybody have a burning question? They want to hear the P word again?
I just had a suggestion, not really a question, toward this young lady over here. My thought is I haven't heard anybody discuss detoxing and going on fasting. What I notice when I fast for 7, 10, 14 days, after the 7th day is where your energy is high, you got great circulation. If you're juice fasting, you're doing daily enemas, that kind of stuff, you're going to get rid of so much, you're going to stimulate so much circulation that I hear a lot of people get, personally myself and others, their libido comes back. They can have an orgasm when they meditate, like what's going on, like things are awakening up. So I just wanted to emphasize that, like detoxing, properly fasting, juice preferably. Ginger's known for, for libido as well. But these are the things that I would suggest for anybody with cancer, stage 4, chemo, radiation. I tell it to some of my patients too who have been given these diagnoses, but a lot of people just not willing to do it because it has a lot of discipline and willpower, and they feel hungry, they get weak, etc. So I just wanted to bring that to this because everybody's here for healing, but fasting, juice fasting, you can't get any better than that with daily enemas. It's healing, you get all kind of rejuvenation, stem cells, all that stuff, and your libido will come back. In addition to topical, I agree with that 100% as well.
We
So,
have Ginger in our Rockstar
there you
Woman
go.
program.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
and you get energized. I mean, your sleep will decrease. It's amazing. So I just wanted to add that, that's all.
Thank you very much. All right, we have time for one more last question. Any burning desires? Well, before we wrap up, any last words from our panel?
Don't
Maybe-
stop eating when you have stage 4 cancer.
Please.
Don't what?
Don't stop eating just for a week when you have
Exactly.
cancer.
I can't. Are there any better words, curiosity, kindness, other than Heather's juicy pussy? I don't know what else to say to top that.
Listen to your body, people. Your body gives you all of the answers. What works for me might not work for you. But whatever you do, don't neglect that first chakra, because it sounds all like, ooh, but really, you got to nourish your body from the ground up, and that's not your feet, okay? Like, think about where your most powerful center is. Those are your sex organs. Nourish them and heal them, and that looks different for everybody. And the most beautiful thing about being alive right now in this crazy world is that you've got people like Angela out there who are really dedicated to this. You got people who are studying the science. You got people like me who are so invested in helping you go through menopause and not lose all your juicy sexy. So spread the word, tell everybody, orgasms are good for you. Staying sexually healthy is good for you, whether you're with a partner or by yourself. Take care of yourself and use the plant medicines that have been around for thousands of years that were vilified in the past century. we don't need to vilify them anymore. That's why we're all here. We've all come to this convention to be with other people who recognize the power of plant medicine. So, like, grab that shit by the balls, man. Like, it's full on. It's there for you.
Well, thank you guys so much this afternoon. If you guys, we're going to be here for the rest of the day. You want to say where they can find you, Dr. Fisher?
Well, I think we're all right outside these
Right
doors.
outside
Right
this
outside
door.
the
You
doors.
can walk out the door and find us.
Yep.
Just yell sex.
Me and Angela would jump.
Well,
What, where?
You know, this is just another example of how psychoactives are being used to enhance our daily lives. We talk a lot about trauma, we talk a lot about healing, but also part of that is being able to progress our relationships and be able to do what we may call the light work and the future of psychedelics in another form to be used to enhance your life. So it's about freedom, curiosity, and the ability to explore. So I invite you all to learn more about it from our panel out there. And we have one more speaker for our final panel today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Great job.